Welcome to Coffee and Pizza. I hope you can enjoy.
Welcome to another happy and beautiful and nice episode of Coffee and Pizza. And today we have a special guest. We have the pleasure to have here Mr. Umit. He's a hacker converted to CEO of Mobile Labs. It's we can say a lab where you can hack mobiles. I don't know very well how to explain that, but we can talk about that later. But often I don't like to introduce my guests. The guest can introduce himself. But before to introduce you very well, can you give me like three highlights or two things about you believe is important for someone is starting to hear in this podcast?
Yes, thank you very much, Albert. Thank you also for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, I think if I think about the major things in my life, three major things is indeed for the first time in my life actually getting in touch with computers and realizing that I could do something. One of the other major things is that I first time got paid for a bug bounty. I think that was like a special moment for me. And then, I always dreamed of going to some tech company, like working for some tech company. And that was also like a very major step. And again, like I think maybe it's four because now is actually the company that we are building right now and working on the things that we are working on. So those are the major things that I can mention in the from beginning till now. Yeah.
That's incredible. One of the things I was very interested to talk with you because one of the first things is because you are creating something in my perspective very interesting for many people because you are creating like pen testing labs for mobiles. And that's very good because now the mobile is it's ringing. That's very good. And another hand, something we was talking about out of the record is about your background. Okay, and one of the things I want to you can share with the people is like, for where are you coming from? Because this is always the first question I for everyone. But where are you coming from? I mean,
Yeah, where where I come from is originally I come from Turkey, so I'm a Turkish born, and I was 6 years old until I left Turkey, so I was very young. Before that, my parents actually left, and they were already living in the Netherlands. So this is how I came to the Netherlands, and yeah, still very young, 6 years old. Like anyone else. It was like a different thing, because we came there as refugees, so to say. So it was a different way. This is how I came to the Netherlands. And for the rest of my life, I'm actually right now living in the Netherlands. And I worked a couple of times like outside the Netherlands as well, like in the UAE. I also worked in Ireland with my last job. Yeah, that's where I come from. That's where I come from. But from the background of security and development, I started when I was very young with development, with software development, and that had a reason. When I was a small kid, I used to come into a lot of trouble. When I was very young already. I couldn't sit still in the classrooms, like very very distracted. I think a lot of hacking people have that. Like we are investigating things. So I used to pull things out of each other, like at a very young age. When I look back at it, I think like, oh yeah, of course, that makes total sense now. Like breaking the cars, watching what was inside, but also getting me in trouble. Like, yeah, that's where I come from. Like, and at some point, the first time that I touched the computer, if we talk about like in IT security context, yeah, that was like something special, I think. The first time when I heard the modems going off to connect to the internet, like it was very, very special.
because you told me like you arrived to Netherlands and your family was before in Netherlands and you come from 6 years old. Then that means you was alone at the beginning at Turkey without your
Yeah,
parents.
I used to live with my parents, not parents, but my grandparents. So my mother left a little bit later than than my father, and then my brother, and then at last me. So that was how it was arranged actually, and finally, yeah, we were all together. Yeah.
That's a very interesting story and very motivational from my perspective to me because same you was talking with me out of the record is you come from zero, right?
Yes, yes,
When
total
you
zero.
when you arrive to Netherlands, you can speak the language, no, right?
Yes, no, no. It was very, I'll tell you honestly, it was like very, very, as a kid also, you come to another place and it is different, right? So yeah, I think it was not, yeah, it definitely not easy, also not for my parents, of course. But yeah, you're right. We didn't have anything at that time. I think I shared that once also online. Like, pretty much we didn't have anything when we arrived. I think that's with a lot of people like that. When they arrive, there is not much and stuff. Yeah.
That's I totally agree with you. But the good thing, at least from my perspective, is or the good thing, or maybe better, we can say the bad thing is always we are talking about cybersecurity or computer science, and you and I, we are almost the same age. One of the things, like, we was like freaks, and not many people understand us. We are not, in my case, not very good student, at least following the student life, and that's create some isolation from my perspective, because it's what hard to find friends and hard to find establish relation with some people, right? I don't know if you have the same issue at the beginning there.
Yeah, so I was 13 years old when I started in that stuff, but before that, it was already difficult for me when I arrived here and I couldn't speak the language. So I was always like this kid that was not belonging to a part of it. And we used to we live in this area where there is less like foreigners at that time, especially, so it was kind of different, you understand? And as a kid, I experienced that. But yeah, overall, I think, yeah, I definitely experienced that kind of stuff. But yeah, I forgot what you said actually, Albert. My apologies. The last
No, no problem. I said sometimes you feel some isolation, right? You feel alone because not many people understand what are you doing or what are you hacking. At the beginning, now you have internet and you can find a lot of people around internet with the same interest like you. But before
yeah,
it was hard because we don't have
yeah.
internet. We have the ERC channels, and not many people have access to internet every day. And same you mentioned, like, we arrived to the computers and we want to learn and learn and learn, and it was so hard to find this knowledge. And I don't know what you feel at the moment.
Yeah, it was for me when I first time touched the computer. I actually for me it was something very special because the thing is that I used to my uncle bought the first computer for me, and there was a reason for that because at my 13th age I was a very bad kid, like not going to school anymore and that kind of stuff. And then my mother sent me to him in Switzerland, and he was a software engineer, and at that time he just opened his laptop and told me what he was doing. And he showed me a screen. And in that screen, I still remember with HTML, he changed the background color. And that looks so cool to me, like I don't know why, but it looks very cool. And then he did it again and changed it and I added some buttons. I thought, oh, this is very cool stuff. And then the day after he bought a book for me, or when I arrived, he bought a computer for me. That was my first very shitty computer. Like it was very good because it was a new one, but still not good. I could just play some MP3 files and listen to it. That was okay. But yeah, from that moment it started. And to be honest, like it was very hard to find people, especially in that time, and I started developing already. So we started with JavaScript first. And in JavaScript, right away, I understood, oh, I can put an alert box somewhere. And I used to do that, like go to a lot of pages and leave alert boxes hacked by, I won't name the name that I was using at the time, but everywhere on the internet, you could just find, if you would do Google search, at that time, and still years later, you could still search it and you would find websites because it was like, as a kid, right? 13 years old, it was like putting graffiti everywhere. Like it felt like that. It's wrong. Looking back at it, it's wrong to do that, but, I think the people that grown up in our ages, I'm now 39 years old. So it's 26 years back. So imagine that was the beginning of the internet. So there was nothing, no security, no nothing. It was super easy. And it was a fun time that I can tell you.
Totally. And also one thing is, like, I was talking when I did more, and he said something very interesting. He said, before, at the beginning, the line between to be a criminal and be a hacker was so was so
Yes, I
thing,
agree with
you
that.
know.
I'll tell you
And
this. I think many of us were criminal, maybe, maybe more, but not in a criminal sense. I believe you are a criminal when you steal money, like when you steal money or you do something, someone to harmfully hurt someone. But if you are on a search for like intellectual knowledge and you are, it's different as a kid as well. Like it was like solving a puzzle sometimes, like And about talking about people, I couldn't find anyone, so I was also on IRC channels, looking for people to get in touch with them, but you could never trust people, right? It was like I had no idea with who I was chatting. But at one of my internships, there was one guy, like, for the first time in my life, in my internship, very shitty internship, there was a son of the boss there, and he used to make computers, and I was doing an internship there. And the cool part is they had an exploit. I won't name the exploit because it's very obvious. Everyone knows that from that time. But yeah, it was about, pounding IaaS service, the Microsoft IaaS service. And there were many exploits at that time, and they were just everywhere. They were just hacking all that stuff all the time. And it was so amazing, like I saw these exploits and stuff, and got more interested in going low level stuff from that point of view. Like, it was very, very interested to start doing that stuff. Yeah.
Mm. You mentioned something funny, like at the beginning you was putting like XSS in JavaScript in many websites. Like a few years ago, I was watching a video. Today, some criminals are using AI to go to some websites and put XSS with loggers hidden in XSS in many websites, because now it's very easy to do it, and stealing credentials of the people. That's sick. Something
Yes.
like SSS that the people believe is not important, or is like not critical. How critical can be, right?
Well, I have something to tell about that, Albert, because I never thought that anywhere. A lot of people know that, but very long time ago, I found a vulnerability, and at that time, XSS was still like not that much, but it was on the explosion that people saw it as a real threat. It was that perfect time, and I was sitting somewhere with some friends, and I found an XSS on a government website in the Netherlands. So I made a joke to them: I can be on the news tomorrow. They laughed at me, right? I said, "No, no, no, sure." They said, "Yeah, yeah, okay." They knew I was busy the whole time on my laptop. By the way, they were no hackers. So when we were sitting together, sometimes I was hacking on my laptop, and the day after that, the news arrived. The real news arrived on the big 6 hour clock news and stuff. It was pretty cool. Talking about XSS, it was that was actually one of the cool things.
The-
If I can find the footage of it, I'll send it to you, because it was like on national TV everywhere. But you know how? Very simple. It was one of the payment pages that had a search box. It was a very lame thing, and I knew it was lame. But these people from the news liked it so much, they brought it all the way. It was very funny to see that, and it was in the search bar. You could just add stuff and it reflected on there. So you could just fake the whole page there and send the mail out with that link. So if they click on it, the domain is correct, everything is correct. So you could ask them to transfer money, because it was also the page where you do the payments for the government stuff. So it was perfect, actually.
you did
Yeah,
I frame with SSS injection, right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. But it was lame, but it was fun, because it was just funny that the whole news, and it became like a big thing. Yeah,
That's
I could
that's so
just.
cool. But be careful with that, because one friend of mine, he's Alberto Gil. He sent emails to the bank saying, "Hey, you have vulnerabilities," and that's the stories in my Spanish channel. And that guy sent this to Uruguay government saying, "Hey, you have vulnerability," and 3 months later, he was on the jail for 6 months. Then because someone stole the money from the bank, and he said, and the authorities say you was the hacker, you know, and he was on the jail for 6 months only for send
That's
email
crazy,
saying,
man.
"Hey,
Come
you
on.
have vulnerability." That, but that's crazy, and I believe, at least I hope so, with the back anti programs and these kind of things. If someone want to do this kind of stuff, you have the possibility to do it, right?
Yeah, do
And
it right, exactly. Because to be honest, I got threatened a lot. While I was a kid, I found also a lot of stuff, and contacted some of these companies. And I was not all, because there was no guideline at the time. So you had no idea how to do it. And sometimes people around myself who were not technical used to push me, say, like, it's not okay. They pay you so less money for that stuff. We were still kids, right? And the, at sometimes these companies also used to threat, right? But I think it's also part of the behavior of myself at that time, like acting stupid. like asking for money and stuff like. But that changed, of course. Over the time, I understood that it worked differently, and most of those people that I had these stuff with became like clients at some point. Like when I started becoming more professional, many of them actually gave me, yeah, they became clients. I do pen tests for them and that kind of stuff.
Because when you are younger, you have testosterone, and this testosterone that make you take good decisions sometimes, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yes, when the
Uh,
testosterone at that time, I had to
exactly.
hack everything. There was no choice. Like, yeah,
It's like a terrible cross between the number of testosterone and the number of ego, right? It's a dangerous cross.
yeah,
And another thing, like moving forward about your career and your life, you arrived to there, you discover your first computer, you did the decision, okay, I want to start to create or coding or something like that. Why you start to coding? Because not many people have this background at the beginning.
yeah. So I started coding because I thought right away when I started coding, I understood I can do more with this. That was directly my thing. I think I already had this mindset, right? A little bit of bad kid that was doing bad stuff, so I could recognize directly. Oh shit, I can do something different. And sometimes I couldn't understand that other people could not see that you could do something evil with that. Like. And when they talk about this hacker mindset, I think it was a bit natural in my case, so it went also very easy. Sometimes bug bounties were also like super easy, like 10 minutes, and then like collecting bug bounties like very quickly. It was very natural. uh, yeah, that's
And more, if you have the availability to read and understand code, like your case, right? I'm more for with the background of JavaScript, because most of the vulnerabilities arise from JavaScript today, right? That's the reason. But your background is you start to go to the university, or you start to
No,
learning by
no, totally
yourself.
not. No, I got kicked off from school from the first high school year. So directly kicked off from school, and I had no choice. I was also not allowed to go to school because of such a bad kid I was. I'm not allowed to enter any school in this area. So that was really bad. Like, I'll tell you. And it caused a lot of problems for my parents, of course. And at the end, when I touched the computer, I swear to you, from that moment, my life started changing, because I found I could just lose myself in that thing, like for hours. Like, some people like to game, and I never had that. Like, I really enjoyed like writing code, and then just bouncing around a ball, coding that it bounces around the screen. That just gave me a lot of enjoyment, to be honest. Yeah, and then from there it was just very easily. I learned a lot about computer security as well. Like, in the meantime, like, I went very low level. I got a book from 88-bit or 16-bit assembly programming on Windows. Like, that was the book that I was reading, and I really wanted to go to the high school, where they were teaching that assembly language and that kind of stuff. I knew there was one software engineering education school, and I applied there. I went there multiple times, and they refused me many, many times. And that's very funny, because later I got accepted, and finished it very fast. But I was very young, and they, I still remember, because they told me, like, if you're a kid, if you were a special kid that could just play some music instrument, you would have gotten accepted for these type of, like, you need to be something special. And I said to them, like, but I can code, right? I'm also very young, and I can code like other people. And it, sorry, and it felt like very hurtful, to be fairly honest, like, when they said that to me. But I never gave up, so I still continued, and I knew, at some a later age, I can actually go to that school. In the meantime, after years passed by, I used to work at globally, UPC. It's the Liberty Global for the US people. It's like
Mhm.
this internet provider. And the cool part is there some interesting, because all the skills that I had, and I used to still hack stuff just for the fun of it, and still do programming every day, like you would everyone who's right now a hacker, that sits the whole time and busy. Even though I had no job in that, I was just doing that. That's why I think, it was like something intrinsic. You doing war games, like, like. And then
Mhm.
at some age, I got into multiple jobs. And during those jobs, anytime I had a computer, I got into trouble, like every time. Like, even my internship, I got kicked off because I sent out a mail with a VBS script in that executed. Yeah, and they kicked me off from that. Then the day after another job I got, I found that every screen like XSS could jump over in another device the whole time. So I created an XSS that just does that the whole time, and then you could see it on the screen from everyone one by one popping. Got me into trouble again. I didn't lose my jobs. That's not, but all the time I was getting in trouble because the work is easy, and then just typing and doing stuff was more fun in between. And then at UPC, something very interesting happened. Yeah, so I found it while doing the calls in the customer calls, you are using your computer there, and I was just the whole time scanning internally and doing all that kind of stuff, and I no one knew that I knew that stuff, so I was just doing that in the meantime, just for the fun of it. And then sometimes I used to get access to servers and stuff and they caught me actually, so that's why I can openly speak about it. While being in the calls, I was doing that. And then the one time, so I found a very critical vulnerability, and I didn't tell it yet because it was very cool. And then I could just shut down machines at will and do everything. I had a nice buffer overflow that was very unique that could just warmable. And what happened is they discovered that I was doing that kind of stuff because there were machines turning off and coming back on. And I had a conversation with one of the directors, and he said, "Hey, look, I think you know a lot about this stuff, and we would love that to hear from someone that knows about this stuff." So I said, "Yeah, sure." I told them about the vulnerability, and they were very, very impressed by that. Then someone from all the way other cities and so stuff came, and from that moment, I already knew, okay, I probably know some more stuff than most of these people. And then I decided to go to school because I knew I now had to finish my school. So I went to some middle school, very low, the lowest school, because I had no education. And they knew I had some knowledge because I learned a lot of stuff myself, even mathematics, just for the fun, because I wanted to learn hacking, right? I thought that's maybe the best way to do it because you saw on TV like these mathematical guys, but it was unnecessary. At some point for my education, it was good, but I don't think it was necessary for hacking. And then I went to high school, not high school, but becoming a system administrator. I finished that in 6 months, very fast paced, in 2 years education in 6 months. Then I jumped over to they allowed me to jump over, and then I went to the school that refused me, that accepted me. Yeah. And there
Finally.
finally, and there I again hacked the school, and there they were very happy with that, and I showed them all the vulnerabilities in a proper way. Then they allowed me to do pen tests also for the school, so that was also very cool. Hacked a lot of my as a test. I was allowed to do phishing attacks, and to be honest, and there I also learned how hurtful it is when you have to tell someone that they are fish. It hurts someone in their soul when you tell them you got hacked. Actually, we got into your system. But and there I finished my school in. I also asked the teachers "Hey, can I do it in a fast pace?" And it was software engineering. I finished it in I think 2.5 years. So yeah, a little bit over 2.5 years. I finished that school actually. Most of the material was done. I got a job offer in between that role 2 times. So this is also where things become more and more serious. Career-wise. Before that, I was still hacking, doing some bug bounties or getting pen tests in and working in that way, still studying and that kind of stuff. And still working on the side, doing other work, still. But I think always I believed in it that I was going to become a real professional pen tester. And that happened during the study. I was still doing an internship at ING, and I found very critical vulnerabilities there. And they were also very amazed by that, that I could find such a thing, and all their testing team never found that. And that allowed me right away to come into the spotlights, right? So they saw, okay, this guy knows very well about this stuff. It's very unique. And that in between, I got a job offer during my internship. So I switched my internship into a real job, working as a consultant for some security company in the Netherlands. to be fairly honest, these people learned me a lot of stuff, like because I was mainly a hacker, still a hacker mindset, right? Trying to get access to everything. There, from them, I learned not to think like that. The customer doesn't want you to go into their system. They want you to find vulnerabilities as much as you can and report that. Even the smallest things, even the shitty HTTP only finding that we don't like sometimes. The customer wants to see that, you need to report that. Yeah, so that's the journey. If I can just shortcut it. So if you have any questions, we
No,
can go into that.
just one thing, this is interesting because, one of the people, many people don't understand that when you are doing pen testing, it's very different when you are doing hacking or hack the box, right? Because finally you are working against the clock, right? And if you
Yep.
waste from 1 week, you waste this 1 week to try to do some hard and difficult exploitation, have a lot of value, of course, for the company. But maybe it's better if you have more vulnerabilities where the company can fix it, right? And that's one of the things not many people understand, but I understand your point. And also, you were saying like I find some buffer overflow. That means you can coding in another languages, right? Not only have a script, like C or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. So I think pretty much every language I touched at some point right now, like some languages I like more than the other ones, but and to be fairly honest with you, in the last years it has becoming lesser and lesser. Like I still program, still touch code and stuff. Especially with this new AI age, I mean, it becomes more difficult to write code yourself. It's very easy. Hey, write me a snippet of code. But yeah, I still develop a little bit, but not that heavy anymore. But yeah, I do read every language and can find vulnerabilities in, yeah, I think all the major languages like C++, Java, uh, JavaScript, you name it, like.
One of the things I know, do you have the OSCP, right? And
Yes.
you get it like years ago. It's like I don't remember the year, but when because one of the things I try to explain to the people is if it's important or not have these certifications, and you got it one of the maybe 10 years ago, I see, or something like that.
I got it in 2018.
Yeah,
I think 2017 I got it. Yeah, I think 17 or 18.
yeah, 7 years ago. That means like, that's a long time, right? But no many now it's getting so popular the SDP, and maybe not at least here in Spain. Many people is trying to get it, but at the beginning, at your time, it was something like not very common. The people have certifications because cybersecurity at the beginning doesn't exist, or maybe exist, but it's not very easy to find people experts in cybersecurity. It's more like system administration, coding, QA in the best scenarios. But someone doing like pen testing like you, it was not very common, right?
Mhm. Yeah, but can you repeat the question,
No,
Albert?
no. The
Because
thing is like,
uh,
the thing is like, is if it's true, like the beginning for you, it was easy to find a job, but is it not something very normal at that time because not many people was working on cybersecurity, right?
yeah, so for me it was always easy to get into some job, because I don't know, I think that when you are on LinkedIn and these type of platforms, it will go pretty easy. If you just if you're there and you have like some security experience, they will somehow reach out to you. All security people experience that. But yeah, I think overall the security. Yeah, Albert, sorry, I think we need to cut this part out because I forgot all of the sudden everything
No
again.
problem. No problem.
Let's go back to the OSCP stuff maybe, because
No, no, no,
yeah.
no. I really like it because one of the things I want to bring to the table at the moment is like you mentioned about the artificial intelligence, and we was talking about certifications, and we was talking about is important to find a job or not today in cybersecurity, and you say for me it never was important, it never was hard because I have experience, right? And why I want to bring this to the table because one of the things I believe today many people it's hard to find new jobs more for the juniors because we have artificial intelligence and today is very disruptive or something is changing the market, right? How do people find and exploit bugs and use an AI? And I don't know from your perspective like how many percentage or do you believe will be affect to the cybersecurity, artificial intelligence?
Yeah, in the AI age, I think a lot of us will be affected. Like if you think about like testing and secure code reviewing and that kind of stuff, I think a lot of that stuff can be very, very good done with AI. You know, if you look at it, an AI won't miss some of those vulnerabilities if we do it properly. You know, like a human, it's also based on the skill set of a human. You understand, right? Yeah, with an AI, with a machine that can reason and check code very quickly and analyze that. I think that's where devices are very good at. Like artificial intelligence will be a main thing. For example, like there's nothing wrong with pen testing, but let's be realistic about it. I think you also asked about OSCP. Like OSCP is a good thing to have for sure. You know, it was like, to be fairly honest, at some point it became more an ego thing to have that thing than just to prove that you have skills, because you do repeat the same stuff that you do there, right? You just look for versions, enumerate, and then check if there are public exploits that you can use against it. That's what you do. Like there's no like 0 day or attacking, or I'm not saying is wrong, but if you go into a job someplace, and many of the pen testing jobs will come from financial institutes that are regulated, that have a lot of tests to do, you have to imagine that there's only one red team that might do these type of attacks, and not many people will be able to join those team. And we can go into that separately, but I believe like the valuable skill to have, where a lot of people are looking for, is application security. Like, you know, there is a lot of work there. I believe in the AI world that's going to change as well. But what will happen is that we will have different type of roles. You know, I also, in the beginning, when this AI stuff, when I played around more and more with it, I also got a bit worried. Like, you know, this stuff is going to take over everything that we do. Like, seriously, I thought that, okay, I can guarantee you, you have to become very much better than what you do. But there will be new type of stuff. You can already see AI vulnerabilities and people who do analyst work maybe, or guide an AI or that kind of stuff. You know, like we will always have humans needed, but new roles will come out of this stuff. Like there's a new industry that's going to come up. I believe as a security guy, if you do not believe in AI, and you're not going to go with this trend because you believe no, everything should be manual and all that stuff, I believe that's a losing game. You know, it's like you don't go with the technology that's going to happen. And to be fairly honest, it's not some sort of technology right now, if you ask me. It's like really changing the world. um, you know, even some wrapper applications that do AI, some processing of stuff, even those are very valuable. But in the, yeah, I can just imagine AI becoming much better, especially with agentic programming. You know, like if you have agents there and coordinate agents together, we do that stuff. You know, right now we develop a lot of that kind of stuff. And to be fairly honest, with the results that we see from that kind of stuff, like it's much better than anyone else would do it. Like at some point, I believe as a company, I would be very happy to have like 6, 7 agents that are executing constantly pen tests against every asset that we have, do code reviews themselves, and there will only be a limited set of findings coming out. And we have 3 or 4 very good people who are analyzing the stuff. Then you have people that are looking into the agents themselves, adding features to the agents. So there will be more work maybe coming for security work, but not the way we know it as it is right now. Let's be fairly honest about one thing. You know, pen testing is not rocket science. If anyone is going to argue with me, they can leave a comment here in the comment. You know, because I don't think pen testing is like rocket science. Like there is some stuff that is very, very hard to do in IT security, like for example crypto, or like cryptographic stuff is very hard. You know, that type of stuff is very hard. But if you do a pen test and you just run tools and then get information back and then check if there is a vulnerability based on known stuff, like that's a trick that we can learn anyone. You know, I believe, yes, people who have like application development skills and they know how to find new kind of stuff, like novel attacks, like something new, because they know how it is has been developed. There's a difference. Like I think also the first people who will lose their kind of stuff is like people who, yeah, who cannot go very deeper into this IT security material.
And
If we
also,
just run tools, get the output, that's it.
mhm. And that's a very smart answer. And from my perspective, also, you mentioned something like I'm not. It's very disruptive, we can say, or very crazy, because a few days ago I was talking with, well, big friend of mine. He's working in the same company as me, and we was talking about that. And something we was talking is like, okay, AI can do many things, but one of the things is like exploitation and this kind of, you talk about buffer overflow. This is hard to the AI, because about weapon testing and about these kind of things, do you have a lot of documentation? You have a lot of websites. You can training a lot the AI with the information you have already on internet. But about buffer overflow, about these kind of things, you don't have a lot of information for training the model, right?
No, that's actually I disagree with that. And the reason why
Really?
that is that we
Incredible.
have run a couple of tests. And another thing that you can actually look up online as well is the Project Naptime from Google Project Zero. I think that shows also there are other projects as well. And we are building such a system ourselves. Like the thing is, we know that if you give agents enough tools and stuff, and you let it execute in a smart way, it will start executing until it finds a solution. Like what it will do if you give it access to a debugger, like a human would, and you give him like an initial kickoff, like, hey, build this, there is a crash file there, and here is the debugger, and here are the compilers. If you give that to now, right now, even to OpenAI or any of these models, it will start executing. I believe at multiple executions, it will find the solution because it will debug, it will get the debug answer back, and it will solve it. Like the reason why is that it will do it like you and me would do. Uh, why we know that is that we have done a lot of tests on that, to test out if that works and all that kind of stuff, and it is surprisingly good. Like I sometimes think like this stuff is magical. Like, yeah, I believe that this is the future, and I'm very excited about this future because there's a lot of exciting things happening in the world. Like, there's no more exciting moment in my life than this moment because I believe this is like real game changing technology. To be honest, as a hacker, to be alive in this moment is also very special. Yeah.
That's I just agree with you at that point. And also another thing, like I don't know if you know Expo is artificial intelligence for bug bounty, and today I believe is the first in BDP programs in HackerOne, and it's a bug bounty AI can do bug bounty, and it's working. I believe it's no needs some supervision from humans, but it's working like automatic, we can say, and it's incredible what AI can do. And a few days ago, I was talking with a big friend of mine, another one, and he say in 2028, maybe in bug bounties programs, only you will see like AIs fighting against another AIs, right?
Yes.
And what do
Yeah.
you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that because all that stuff that the human can do. Because again, let's let's break it down in steps. When you do a pen test, and you look for vulnerabilities, you send requests, you analyze back what's in there. It's like typical work. It's like typical stuff. Imagine a machine doing it. Like your burp active scanner has become very smart all of a sudden, and there's a human sitting behind it and analyzing very fast. Yeah, I think there is no option. It's gonna happen for sure. Like
And
fully. Like we
totally.
will have a lot of things automated, and that's the exciting thing. The other thing is like we will have a lot of new vulnerabilities, new attack vectors that will pop up, cloud complications, like an MCP that can get tokens for you from another place. Like there's so many interesting things that can be. Yeah.
And a few days ago, um, Pursuit introduced AI, and using the Pro version, you can use AI for do pen testing. But you know what is my question at the moment, Umit? Like, what sense have today have certification of cybersecurity when you have one AI can do it for you, right?
Yeah, you're right about it. But there is, for example, what we notice is that these type of technology also have a limitations indeed. But the basic stuff where getting like web vulnerabilities, looking in the response data and stuff, he can do it much better than you and me can. I can guarantee you that. Like, but the more interesting things, we as humans, we can find some more novel things, I think, right now. But in the coming future, that's going to change for sure. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and I was talking with a director of research from for Swigger. He's James Kittle, and then he know a little bit about that because he is the creator of that. And talking about the creation and something about bug bounty and hacking and something like that. Always when we are going to bug bounty programs, many times the people see like web applications or something like that. But also some bug bounty programs, you have the possibility to do pen testing, mobile pen testing in some programs. And there we arrive to your new entrepreneurship world and creating your new company about mobile labs, right?
Yeah. So I can tell you a little bit about Mobile Hacking Lab. We started 2 years ago, Mobile Hacking Lab, and it started with a question about, we were giving these. Let me start from the beginning.
Yeah, it
Very,
was
very long
100%.
time ago. Very long time ago, I started. When I started learning about hacking and stuff, I had this Windows phone on my like a very old one, the very first one that was Samsung with some touch thing with Windows running on it. I think Windows ME or I don't know what it was, but at that time I wanted to learn like, hey, how can I hack these phones? Like this thing is obviously running on that. Then I looked at these Nokia phones. I thought, how are they hacking those? It's Symbian OS, but how do you do that? I never was able to get through that because my knowledge was very limited in that kind of stuff. So years passed by, and there was a book release called the Mobile Hackers Handbook, and I was very excited. So I joined that course, and there I also met a lot of other people. I think that was one of the first courses that I was able to go at. It taught a lot of cool stuff, but I still didn't see anything like on exploitation. So what happened is, I think it was a pretty very good course because it gave me a foundational knowledge. From that point of on, I started searching for other type of course, like in this kind of in this area, but could never find anything, like nothing about it. And that was very surprising that there was nothing about this topic, while it is clearly something in the world that's happening. Like we are not stupid. We are in this security world. We know that these mobile devices are getting hacked to collect information. And that was like one of the interesting things. So at some point, I joined other courses and helped also with several courses at Black Hat conference. But it was always that it was not about getting really access to this device. Like, how would you exploit a mobile device? So from that moment, I started doing research with some of my other friend, who's Dinesh. He's also yeah. We did quite some research on like getting full access to these devices. How would you do that? Along the way, learning about ARM programming and that kind of stuff. And at some point, you know, um, I thought, I submitted to Black Hat. I never believed that I was able to go to Black Hat, to be honest. But the guys that were with me like said, you have to submit this. This looks very cool. Maybe you can give a training. So I submitted that, and it got accepted. So I was very, very happy about that. And to be honest, if I look back at how the course was at then, it was totally shit. Like if I can go back, but yeah, it was not that good, to be honest. Like people liked it, but I think
You
it's
can
the
do better,
first
right?
time, like we gave that course a couple of times, of course, before going there, but it was still like it was it was good. At the end of 2 days, you would have learned all these techniques that we didn't even know about. And at a later stage, I thought there was also some cross point, like I started working at Microsoft, and I promised myself never to give any courses anymore at Black Hat or anything, because it's very exhausting to do that. You have to prepare for it, and the day comes. So I promised myself I will fully focus on Microsoft and work there. But the problem is, when the layoffs started happening and all that stuff, I realized one thing in my life. I thought that, even though I work at one of the largest companies in the world, still a layoff can kick you out of your place. That's not how it should work. Then I thought, this stuff that I'm doing, I already had the idea to create some mobile hacking platform. At that time, I thought, okay, maybe this is the right moment. If I get a layoff, at least I am working on something already, like that was my idea. And while I started, I didn't get the layoff, of course. And then I didn't get the layoff again, did not get the layoff. Every time I was thinking like maybe we'll be in the layoffs, but never happened. But the whole general idea of starting Mobile Hacking Lab was because there was nothing about this. And we really wanted to showcase the world, there's more than only this application security vulnerabilities that you are looking at. It's like when you go to any course, no one talks about these other stuff. And when you open Project Zero's page, there is only about like these advanced exploitation techniques. And it's very hard to get in, or it's very difficult, or it's like very basic. There's nothing in between. So we thought, okay, maybe this is a good moment to create this bridge and let people to experience that as well. And I had already a lot of contact with Corellium, so it was not easy. It took me a year actually to speak with Corellium and arrange the deal. And finally, we had this embedded learning environment. Yeah, that's how the company started. And it was not easy, of course, because I had to do this next to my job, like next to my Microsoft job. And I was just building it up, like in my free time, and just in the weekends and stuff, like constantly building. Yeah, that's me and some other people together with me were building on it. And I got a lot of help actually from other people who are not directly involved, but they are like in the field doing also other mobile security stuff. They helped a lot with a lot of things. Yeah, in general, I think when we started, I started doing some posts to see if there's an interest for it. Like we like that stuff. We knew that, for example, I always wanted to have like that offensive security would create some like really advanced mobile stuff. Never happened. So I thought, okay, maybe it's a good idea that we start doing it. At least we do stuff that we like ourselves, and maybe it becomes something nice. And yes, this is how we started Mobile Hacking Lab. And when we started, I think we had like great traction right away. So that helped a lot, actually.
Because one of the things come to my mind when I think about mobile hacking is, first of all, like everyone is using today a mobile, right? My grandma, my mom is using a mobile. The people is using more a mobile than the computer. And today have a smart device is like something mandatory, right? Because if you want to go to the doctor, you want to have your insurance, you want to have everything you needed, finally you go to your mobile, right? Then I believe this is like a field very interesting to explore. And same you mentioned before, we don't have many information about that, because one of the main problems, at least when starting to do mobile pen testing, or is like mobile or software or device emulation, we can say. And how do you solve that problem with the mobile emulation in your
So in
platform?
our environment, we solve it differently, of course. But in general, when I do this kind of work, I usually work on Android and less on iOS. Sometimes I might look at some stuff, but mainly my area is Android. For Androids, it's not difficult, right? You can just spin up if you have like a MacBook with a with like M1 or M2, M4, the M series. You can just emulate an Android device, root it. You can just pretty much do everything you want. You don't need a device. You don't need like an environment to run these stuff. So for me that works personally, and for other stuff, like sometimes for drivers and stuff that you want to exploit, you would need to have like the real device. It doesn't work like that. So for those, I have a bunch of devices here. I think before the show, we were just showing each other all the devices. So I have a bunch of devices, many more upstairs. Uh, yeah, if I have to use them, I will use some of them. And some of them are, unfortunately, you cannot go back a version back. So they are stuck in one version. So that's how I love to keep them and do not touch any version differences anymore.
And
Yeah.
how many phones do you rig? Like you cannot use it anymore. I mean, like you broken.
Sorry?
How many devices you broken doing your stuff?
So many. Yeah. So many devices. I think not broken. I think I made them useless while they were useful, by accident, just pushing a wrong bootloader into it, and then you don't have a choice. You have to upgrade again, and that's the shitty part. And then you cannot go back. You have to find the correct device. Like I experienced a lot of stuff with that. And to be fairly honest, I think also mobile security and doing exploitation on these devices and stuff, that makes it hard. Like these physical devices sometimes are very complicated. And when you want to learn about this stuff, you don't want to be busy with setting up your environment and then it doesn't work. Sometimes you don't even know if it's because of the device or is it your configuration, or what is it that it doesn't work? I think as a starter, that's why we also wanted to solve that, to enable you to have everything ready and you can focus on the learning and a cool environment where there is some real mobile hacking happening. And that's the ambition, like offensive security style mobile security. That was the ambition from that time. Now it changed a little bit. Now we have a little bit different vision about stuff. Yeah.
No, but also because the people when it's thinking a mobile pen testing or something like that, the people is thinking like mobile application hacking, right? But you are not focused only the mobile application. You are more focused also in hack the device, right?
Yes. So we have different courses. For example, on the academy, we have different courses. We teach about application security. Those courses are for free. Everyone can do it. We did that on purpose. We think like a lot of these other courses online are the same, are about that topic. So we thought, okay, if we just open it, maybe they will level up their stuff as well. So we hopefully it changed the industry a little bit. That was our opinion about that. And with that, hopefully people will also get interested in more advanced stuff. We level up the skill set of the whole community about this mobile stuff. Like, I don't consider myself as the best of the best or something, you know. I know some stuff that I could create as a platform and make sure that other people also reach that level. That was the plan. And helping with these devices that we have, that will help a lot. Yeah.
Because one of the things you mentioned, I believe, is interesting. Like you want to offer something to the community, right? And you offering for free a free course. Like someone want to start or want to discover that, that's a cool stuff. But at that point, before we have a meeting like a few days ago before to this meeting, and we was talking about how hard is to be an entrepreneur or create your own company today, and you are learning a lot about that, right? And a few days ago, you were doing like this stuff and preparing everything. And how it's being your transformation as a as a company creator, we can say.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because uh, you know, as obsessive I was with computer security, at some point I became very obsessive about self-improvement books. You know, like I started reading all these 7 habits of highly effective people. You know, the books that everyone reads, I read all of them. And while reading while reading all of them, I also realized, you know, like I really would like to do something maybe myself. You know, like I started realizing that maybe that's something that I would like to do. And I learned along that side, like to build up something, you know, like how you know, I also managed a few teams and rolled out a few larger programs within companies that felt like a sandbox environment. So when you do that internally, when you have to roll out a large project, for example, like a new product that is going to test every API within some company, right? That you work there, if you have to roll it out, you also need to go ask for money, investment from the stakeholders. They will invest in it, and then you can do the project, and then you'll update that. It's not much different, you know. Like in the outside world, you do the different. Although before you can start, you have to start it, right? And there, the bootstrapping stuff happens. Like when we started, it was like on the side. We do it on the side in the evenings, weekends, like no sleep, no nothing, and that continued for a very long time. Like for me, and like at some point we were with 12 people. You know, like everyone was helping a little bit here and there to get things moving. And still, I believe it was slow, and I learned a lot along the way. One of the things is that we did thousands of things simultaneously, like, you know, a lot of things. While it's not important, you know, like to do so many things simultaneously, we try to make it a sprint, you know, like go very fast and stuff. It's also not maintainable when you go that very fast. You know, so many things that I can tell you. But the biggest things that I also learned is about the business side of startups. I never understood that this was working like that. I thought I have to put everything myself in and make this a success and stuff. Eventually I learned, no, that doesn't work like that. You know, you bootstrap it, and then there are some maybe other people that are interested in joining your venture, like helping you, like getting investors into your project, and that helps you to accelerate. So yeah, in between all of that, we also had acquisitions, you know, like acquisition offers. I never had any chance to learn that from anyone. There's also no one. I come from a technical stuff, right? I
Right.
never knew anyone that started his IT security company. And from that point, we got into acquisition talks with some other company that wanted to acquire us. That was very excited. Like in the first 6 months, it started happening. And we were extremely excited. We thought like, oh yeah, this is so cool. Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes. If I speak about my mistakes, I think we can speak for 2 days about only my mistakes. But
But
I think I learned a lot from that. Like that's the point. If I wait until I have everything successful, very complete and very good, and I present it, then yeah, it's too late. Like you're waiting for the right moment and everything to. It's impossible. Like I
but
don't.
something I say always to me is the right moment is when you do it, right? Because
Yes.
you need to connect, do your personal connection, like your moment, your knowledge, your friends, your whatever, right? Or your situation. That's because sometimes the people is very hurry. Like I want to be entrepreneur, I want to be entrepreneur, and I want to create my own company. And sometimes like you need more experience. And you mentioned like when you're working for companies and you work as myself, like a project manager, right? You know how to handle the project, you know how to handle the team, you know how to
Exactly.
handle the problems, you know how to do many things of this kind of stuff. And when you are 20 years old, same we mentioned before, you have more testosterone than brain, and it can be dangerous, this this mix, right?
Oh, it's very difficult. I don't think I tried it a couple of times, but it was like nothing going anywhere. And I couldn't understand why not. But now when I look back, I think like, come on, you were just doing nothing. That was nothing. Still, if I look back at 2 years back, I think like, man, you were just playing around. Like I'm still doing whatever I can, like whatever I know, I'll try to do it. I think I learned quite some things in between now. But I will say it's not an easy road, like it was very hard working, like now sometimes people see that I quit my job and stuff, but to reach that point was also very difficult. I went through hell a couple of times, not once, like like
Mm.
life will happen. Some of the founding people, that you work together with, some things in their personal life will happen in that time. And since you have so less time, yeah, right, to it yourself as well probably, but if you have so less time to produce all the stuff like create videos, YouTube posts and courses, and and things go wrong in between, you have to solve that.
Exactly.
I think we
And
just started. Like, let's keep it that way. We just started, and hopefully, in the next coming months and stuff, things will become much better. Like, I consider us like very baby steps still. Like,
yeah, I totally understand. But then, we was talking about almost 1 hour, and from my perspective, was a very interesting conversation. And I hope, like you come from nothing to where you are. Doesn't mean you are rich or something like that. That means like you are creating your company. You are growing to yourself. You are growing like a person, as a human. That's interesting. And I believe we're gonna stop at the moment, but I saved that time because I want to see you in a few months, to have another time to invite you here to the podcast, and we can talk about your entrepreneurship and how rich you are at the moment, and,
yeah,
and
that's
everything
that's
is
that's. I'm
going
very
fine.
rich. I have a Patek Philippe on my watch and stuff. No, of course not, man. It's just some guess watch. No, that rich thing. I look. I'll tell you this, Albert. If you the problem with us people, some of us are like that. I know that. You cannot sit still. I always dream to get some role. When I get the role, I will directly jump into another role. Like there's no stop. My wife says to me, like, what, you always wanted to achieve that. What happened? Like now you got that. And then right, I'm not joking. Like directly I will jump into something else. And that's like a sickness, I believe. That's also something like sickness, because like you're not really sick in that sense, but I mean it's
Yeah, I got it.
people understand that like you have something that you need to do it, like there is no choice. And it also comes with a downside, because sometimes I do too much and I get too excited and I do too many things, and then you cannot hold everything. Like you have to be careful. I had to learn that as well along the side.
Exactly. And at that time, you remember, do you have wife? Like, fuck, I forgot something. My wife.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Then, I mean, it
Yeah,
was a
wife,
pleasure.
kids. Yeah.
Then it was a pleasure. I hope to see you soon. And thank you very
Yeah.
much for sharing that experience with with us, and I hope to see you soon, my friend.
All right. Thank you very much also.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Albert. Bye-bye. Bye.